From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and All India Radio, this is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in Bristol this week, where England's women have started their final series of the international summer with 5 ODIs against New Zealand. And I'm doing a little bit of a West Country road trip over the weekend with a little bit of hiking between matches. Well, not exactly between matches. I don't intend on walking from Bristol to Worcester, but you know what I mean. A bit of coastal walking, I reckon. In the meantime, England's men are hoping to be able to make some decisions about the Ashes by the end of September. The prospect of heavy quarantine, bubble restrictions and questions around families for such a long period of time is making life planning rather difficult. Jim, how are your vaccination rates going over there?
They're starting to move, pushing 50%. So I think the big number is 70. And once it gets to that, we may have the freedom to go and do things like have a haircut, which I'm sure you can do in Tasmania and Western Australia. But here in Sydney, we're still in lockdown and looking forward to something happening. It's times like this you need to be optimistic. Otherwise, you'll have a grim look on your face. And there may even be Sheffield Shields starting sometime soon.
Jim, this is Charu Sharma for All India Radio back in Bangalore again this week, where the situation is not too bad in terms of the whole COVID unlocking matter. But I had to be home because of a spate of birthdays, not the least my wife's 60th, which is rather a special celebration. And
happy birthday to her.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Yeah. And then, of course, I run off to one of my favorite places, Kathmandu in Nepal, because they've got a new official T20 league going. It's called the Everest T20 League or Premier League. And I quite look forward to making sure that the people in Nepal or cricketers in Nepal get very excited about their own league. So that'll be during the day. And we all know what's going to happen later in the evening is the big old IPL. So, and by the way, Alison, I'm also hugely looking forward to the Indian women in Australia.
Exactly. Yeah, that series is a good one, isn't it? The multi-format series, a test match being played as well. But you know what? We thought that we would be starting this week's Stumped programme by looking back on the 5th and final test between England and India. But of course, that didn't happen in Manchester. I was up there. I was at Old Trafford, at the ground the morning when the game was called off. So no thrilling finale. Cancelled because of coronavirus concerns, and it leaves the series at the moment poised at 2-1. Who knows whether it will stay that way? Lots of politicking to be done. But Charu, I mean, extraordinary that the match was called off just 2 hours before it was due to get underway. There had been some concerns before that, hadn't there? What did you think when you first heard the news?
Well, it seemed very unexpected, or perhaps I should use the word shocking, because we didn't quite think that the test match would be called off, and we don't quite know the official status just yet. But also from the standpoint of the series, just what it was at that point, very disappointing, because both teams would have done their utmost to win. England, of course, to draw the series in a manner, and India to emphatically seal the victory. So much was expected in that match, and the Indians, of course, would have been looking forward to seal it all with a 3-1 win. I feel most disappointed, though, for the spectators, the ticketed public, because, you make plans and it's a 5-day affair, some would have travelled, and then to just have it called off 2 hours before, I mean, there must have been extremely difficult circumstances, is all I can say, for this decision to be taken.
Well, you talk about India wanting to seal it 3-1. England were hoping to level it at 2-2, weren't they? I mean, India said they were unable to field a team because the players were worried about, well, rather, I think this came officially from the ECB. The players were worried about further cases of COVID spreading through the squad. But let's face it, both physios had COVID. There were some definite close contacts, players who'd been treated. You can't deny that. And were it not, in fact, for the rules in the UK having changed in the middle of August, all players who were close contacts would have been put into self-isolation immediately had that been the case. But instead, because of the situation the UK is in, they were free to mix with their teammates as long as they kept testing negative. And if you look at it, positive test and 10 days of isolation in the UK would have scuppered any onward travel plans. And with a fairly significant event called the Indian Premier League on the horizon, Charu, it can't be denied, can it, that the IPL absolutely played a part in the players' thinking, didn't it?
Well, it just happened to be the IPL. It could have been any other tournament. So at this point of time, let's be just a little more generous with the whole pandemic situation, because though sport is carrying on and in a fairly robust fashion, but yet the threat of COVID hangs about everywhere. I think the IPL is getting unfair stick because of the fact that it was the next scheduled event. What if this had been just before the T20 World Cup? And would people not have gone for the World Cup and instead of risking more COVID positive cases?
Yeah, I do have some empathy with that point of view, because I know even from a personal perspective, when I was in Australia even, or in England looking to go out to Australia for work purposes, you are anxious in the 10, 14 days leading up to your flight, because you know you need to get on that flight. You cannot risk a positive COVID test stopping you get on that plane, whether it's going somewhere or trying to get home. I mentioned that I was in the commentary box, when it was all unfolding, and Tom Harrison, the ECB CEO, came in to be interviewed on Test Match Special, and he just looked shattered. I think he'd been up all night probably on the phone to the BCCI about it. Tests just don't get cancelled 2 hours before the start like that. But Jim, we talk so much about the cricket calendar and the challenges of the pandemic with trying to fit everything in. Is the pandemic now just shining a much needed light on the issue? Because, that tight turnaround between the test and the IPL and now kind of every other tournament, series, event to come is just untenable, isn't it?
The timing of the IPL hard on the back of this test match was always going to be an issue if something happened, which it did. And I think, unfortunately, as we press on, we're going to see the schedule get so much more cluttered in the next 12 months to 2 years, with the likelihood of yet another IPL taking off in the United States, underwritten by the Indian corporates. So we're going to find more and more Test cricket is pushed to the boundaries as we move on. But at this point, everything's a little dislodged, unhinged, and putting a lot of emotional strain on players and all sorts of people, particularly those administrators who are trying to organise. Goodness knows, will the ECB have a case for some insurance compensation out of this? I mean, it's a huge financial loss, as it will be in Australia if the Ashes don't go ahead.
But we'll wait to see how that all pans out. But the Indian Premier League is getting underway. And one player who will be taking part in it is Australia fast bowler Nathan Ellis. Now, just a couple of years ago, because this is a great story, he was playing club cricket in Australia, but he's just had a dream few months, including a hat-trick on his T20 debut for the Aussies, and now, as I said, a move to the biggest league in the world with Punjab Kings. Nathan, welcome to Stumped.
Thanks very much for having me. Great to be here.
It's good to see you. I mean, can you just explain or put into words just how quickly things have happened for you?
I think that's probably the big challenge, is trying to put it into words. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in quarantine in the last month or so, and it's that's been the time to try and let it sink in. But I have days where I wake up and still question whether it's all happened, or it's been a roller coaster. And now to be here in Dubai and getting ready for the IPL, I mean, just hearing you say Australian player and now IPL player, it doesn't feel real yet.
Jim Maxwell in Sydney. Nathan, your cricketing roots were here, but you've made a great success of it. What's been your reaction when you got the news that you were going to the IPL?
I was in day 8 or day 9 of my 14-day quarantine in Australia, and I had so much time to think about it. So I was just pacing up and down in my room, and it was just, a really exciting few days. And now that I'm here, it's just still sinking in, really.
Nathan, hi, this is Charu Sharma from Bangalore, India. Congratulations on making it to the IPL and, of course, to the Australian team as well. You are going to love it, even though it's in Dubai, but spectators are allowed. And wait till you hit India in the IPL. It's going to be a fabulous experience. But I have to ask you, apart from your Aussie teammates, the team that you're playing the IPL with, Punjab, are you looking forward to playing with certain players or against certain players? Because this is, T20 cricket at its highest.
Absolutely. It's well known that the IPL is the biggest T20 tournament in the world. So that's one of the big pulls for me. Another opportunity to rub shoulders with some of the best players in the world and learn. I'm really excited to meet Mohammad Shami. I really enjoy the way he goes about his cricket. I've sort of tried to emulate a lot of what he does for myself growing up. In the same breath, I'd love to be able to pick Jasprit Bumrah's brain and talk to him about what he does. Obviously, he's made a successful career out of bowling Yorkers. The caliber of names here at this tournament, it's going to be great to talk to players like that and hopefully get invited to a party with Chris Gale or something like that. That'd be nice.
Nathan, good luck in the IPL. Brilliant to speak to you and look forward to tracking how you get on.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it.
From the BBC World Service, this is Stumped. on All India Radio.
Well, we've been discussing the ongoing situation in Afghanistan over a number of weeks now here on Stumped. We heard from Afghanistan men's bowler Naveen ul-Haq on what the Taliban takeover might mean for cricket in the country. And we've heard from organisations and cricket clubs in the UK trying to help those who have fled. We've also talked about the great concern for the future of women's cricket. Now, a Taliban representative has told the media that he doesn't think women will be allowed to play cricket. Cricket Australia say if that's the case, they won't be able to host the men's test scheduled for November. But the chief executive of the Afghanistan Cricket Board has since implored the cricket community not to isolate the men's team, highlighting what they have done to develop a women's game, but saying the ACB, the Afghan Cricket Board, is powerless to change the cultural and religious environment the country is in. All the while, the International Cricket Council tell us they're monitoring the situation, and cricket players who were part of the Afghanistan women's setup are now in hiding or have fled the country for fear of what their love of the sport might mean for them. This week, I've been speaking with Tuba Sangar, who, until just a couple of weeks ago, was the women's development manager for the Afghanistan Cricket Board. She gained passage out of Afghanistan shortly after the takeover, and she's been telling me what it was like to leave her home and her job behind.
I'm still in shock. I can't believe that I left my country, I left my cricket, the people, my home. I left my own home because of my security. I have a lot of opportunity to leave Afghanistan and start my life in other countries. But I just want to be in my country and work for my own people, especially for women.
Have you heard from any of them? Have you been in touch since you have arrived in Canada?
Well, I think from 31 August, I resigned from my position. So that's not my right to in touch with them officially, but in friendly way, I'm in touch with some of them, but they are worried about their life. They're not talking with me the way that they are talking. In the past, they are thinking that their voice are recorded, their messages are recorded by the government of Taliban. So we are in touch, but not in the way that in the past.
So you resigned from your position as manager. Was that an easy thing to do? Was that simply because once you'd left the country, you knew that was the end?
One thing,
do that job.
I can't work with people who not respect me, who not respect my rights. The other reason that I just leave ACB because I received some calls from unknown numbers and they just like talking and I feel threat from them. So I changed my locations many times.
But as regards the cricketers and the players who are still in Afghanistan, you say you're worried about them. Why is it that you feel comfortable now to speak publicly? Because we offered to protect your anonymity, but yet you have wanted to speak as yourself.
Right now I'm safe. No one can hurt me, my family. That's why I want to speak out about their rights. If no one talk about it openly, so how the world, how people know that Afghanistan women teams in danger and they need help. The others cricketers, like women cricketers, they inspire us to play cricket. But right now, when we are in the danger, they are not speaking about us. That's why I'm talking.
I was going to ask just what were the cultural challenges, even pre the Taliban takeover, that the team needed to navigate?
Cricket is a new thing. People just love cricket and they are supportive for men cricket. ECB all the time was supportive. All the time people in ECB, we have some people that were against the women cricket. Like if women team is established, if they are playing, Taliban will create problem for men teams. One thing that I want to mention, that people think that a woman is not physically fit for playing cricket, but our girls, these talented girls, show to them that they can play cricket.
Well, that was Tuba Sangar, until recently the women's cricket development manager at the Afghanistan Cricket Board. So speaking to me there from Canada, where she is. And Charu, that was the first time I've been able to hear firsthand from somebody who was involved in that women's setup from the perspective of the women themselves, and said I found it quite moving that she spoke so well about wanting to be a real voice, a real person, to put her name to the interview, because otherwise she feared that the Afghanistan women themselves would be forgotten. She wanted to emphasise that these are real people at the centre of this story. It remains to be seen. I mean, again, things keep changing and different quotes coming out in the media. And again, even in the last 48 hours, SBS Radio Pashto reporting a quote from the current ACB chair saying, "We'll give you a clear position on how we'll allow women to play cricket. That will come." So who knows what will or won't transpire.
Yeah, well, one's heart goes out to Tuba and all the rest of the Afghan women cricketers, because it was obvious. One can imagine how difficult it was to even just get it started. And all of that seems to have been thrown completely out of the window. So to rebuild this whole initiative, there seemed to be, a genuine push for women cricketers in Afghanistan. And now, with the current situation, it could be pushed back, 10, 20 years, who knows? So that's a real dampener. Also, she did mention somewhere in there, Alison, that women cricketers of other countries around the world should do something. I'm actually not too sure what, unless, of course, the women cricketers can leave Afghanistan and then join other clubs in other countries. On Stumped, we've been doing programs about how the Afghan refugees were getting a few games in England and elsewhere. So if the women too can find a way out, I'm sure other countries would love to accept them and take their cricketing dreams forward. Within Afghanistan, I think it's going to be very difficult for the international community to do anything, because there's all sorts of political confusion at this point in time, leave alone sporting confusion. And I just hope that in the middle of all of this, Afghanistan's men cricketers don't suffer, because they're certainly needed in the short term for the T20 World Cup, and in the long run because they are very exciting cricketers to show their skills around the world.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped here on All India Radio. My thanks to Charu Sharma, Jim Maxwell, and to you all for listening, and of course to our special guests Nathan Ellis and Tuba Sangar. And don't forget, you can keep in touch with the show during the week. We're at BBC WS Sport and use the hashtag BBC Stumped. In the meantime, stay safe and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC sport production for the BBC World Service in association with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and All India Radio.